Welcome back, lifers, to the Live the Life podcast. As always, I am your host, Eric Aroca. Today, we have a great episode in store for you guys. I think you're really going to enjoy it. Should be a lot of fun. First, before I introduce our awesome guest, I do want to take care of a little bit of business. So, as you guys know, we have been talking about the rewrite for the Live the Life You've Always Imagined book for what seems like months. Well, it's because it has been months. And so now you can get your copy. It is available on Amazon. I will leave the link in the description. Go grab yourselves a copy. Great stories. Listen, I'll be honest, all right? I'm just going to be totally vulnerable here. The best part of the book is the foreword by none other than the great Jason Hewlett. So go get yourself a copy. It's worth the foreword, okay? All right, there you go. And as always, it's been a couple of weeks, or it's been several weeks since the catastrophe in southeast, I want to keep saying southeast Texas, in central Texas, in Kerrville. And so our thoughts and prayers are still with all of you guys out there. And Texas Strong is probably the best way that I can wrap that up. So our hearts and prayers are with you guys. And hopefully we can get to the cleanup and we can recover everyone that needs to be accounted for. All right. Having said that, we have none other than the greats, the backsplash install experts, Roscoe and Michelle Allen. Welcome to the podcast, guys.
Thanks, Eric. It's great to be here.
Yeah, thanks, Eric.
I would love having you. So we met just because we had mutual friends. I think, Roscoe, you and I met at Toastmasters.
We did originally. Yep.
Originally, that was many years ago. It's probably been 10 years or so ago.
Sounds
so
about right.
And then we were part of a mastermind group together where we got together once a month and talked about all sorts of fun stuff. So awesome. It's great to have met you, and we've had a good relationship ever since. And then I got to meet the wonderful Michelle because of that. So very awesome. And, I mentioned that you guys were the backsplash experts, and little story behind that. My wife and I were updating our kitchen, and one of the things my wife wanted done was to update our backsplash because we didn't have one. And Roscoe and Michelle had mentioned that they had done one, or I think I saw a video or a picture of you guys doing it. I don't even remember how that came to be, but they installed our backsplash. I watched with very good intent. Like I was paying attention. So thank you guys. It looked great, and it upped the value of our house when we sold it for $1 kajillion more than we bought it for when we moved to Texas 3 years ago.
Beautiful.
Thank you guys. All right. So give us a little bit of an introduction. Take us back to where you guys met, how you met, how this whole thing came to, how the Allens came to be.
That's awesome. Yeah,
I'm
great.
trusting you more than Roscoe on this one, okay?
That's good, because I'll probably tell you more of the truth.
That's
Okay.
right. Never ruin a good story with too much of the truth, Eric.
Let's hear it.
So, I had gone to like 3 different colleges, and finally found myself down.
Right?
Yeah, it's just part of the process. I found myself down at SUU and ran out of money, and met up with a friend and met the ski resort people and said, hey, I want to work at the ski resort. I want to pull chairs or whatever. And they said, hey, how about you be a ski instructor instead? And without that experience, I never would have had a chance to meet Michelle. That would lead you to believe she was a snow bunny. That's not quite the case. It was actually, I was teaching, trying to get enough money for school, and met one of her close friends. And she said, hey, I have a friend I want you to meet. And that's really, and I said, no, I'm just going to go home. I'm going to go home for dinner. And she goes, no, I want you to come up and meet this friend. I'm going to give you spaghetti with real meat sauce. And I said, okay, then I'm convinced I'll stop by for free food. I'm a broke college kid. Absolutely. So that's the first night we really met. We'd seen each other once before in passing, but yeah. So there's the story.
So I was in Long Beach going to Brooks College for interior design, and I graduated and broke off an engagement and moved back home with my parents. And one of my mutual friends that I actually met in the singles ward in Long Beach, her family moved to Parowan. And so she was the one teaching skiing as well. And she goes, hey, Michelle, I have this friend I want you to meet. And I said, no. I'm not interested. She's like, oh, no. I just want to know your opinion of him. I'm like, all right. And I met him and we just never stopped talking. It was like we knew each other forever.
But yeah, we talked through the movie. She goes, why don't you guys go downstairs? We start going downstairs. She goes, hold on. I don't want you guys to go downstairs. And, Eric, one of my core beliefs is you've got this, right? That's one of the principles I live by. And I was pretty nervous. This girl had invited me over for dinner, but I had no interest in her. And this cute girl that she invited named Michelle was there. And so I was getting ready to leave. I shot my shot, man. I'm like, hey, would you ever be willing to go out with a poor broke ski instructor? And Michelle mistakenly said,
sure.
And yeah. And we joked
yeah, exactly.
And we joked that not much has changed. And I'm still broke at times and still teach. Well, I haven't taught skiing in a while, but still love to ski and love the outdoors. And Michelle's been patient. So we met New Year's, like maybe the 2nd of January, and we were married by May of that same year. So within 5 months, we knew we were supposed to be together, and we got married and really happily for 29 years now. So
wow,
yeah, it's been awesome. It's been quite the ride.
Quick ride, right? From meeting to getting married.
Yeah, it was really fast.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep. She had a brother that was getting deployed, and so we decided didn't want to wait. And I tried to convince her to go on a mission, Eric, on a church mission, but she said, no way. If I do that, then I don't trust that you'll be around. I'm like, oh. I even then I had shared with her that I wanted to be a vagabond and get a motorcycle and drive across the country and just see the country, to be in the country, to be, instead of always seeing. And so it's kind of been we've kind of had this wanderlust our whole really married life. Right. So that brings us into this adventure. And Eric, I love that you shouted out that we did a backsplash, because that's one thing that Michelle and we're DIYers, right? We still love it. And that's how this cabin's put together. That's kind of our journey on nest to cozy nest and putting it together. And during that whole adventure, we're like, hey, let's travel too. And that's what took us over to Asia. But we have 4 amazing kids. Oldest one's 27, and him and my 3 sons, we run Adulting Decrypted, a podcast as well.
Excellent.
And we've had you on there.
Excellent podcast.
Yep. We've had you on there teaching us about how to dress and I wish anyways, he might watch this. So Ashton, if you do, Eric still gives great advice on how to dress and whatnot for, that advice. So, and then we have an amazing daughter who's teaching special ed and knew her calling early in life and is off crushing it. They're all crushing in their different way. We have a son, Gene. He's on the podcast with us. He's actually at SUU where we met. So there's hope that he'll meet somebody he might like too. Maybe. And then Gideon, our youngest, when he left to serve his church mission over in Germany, he left there, and Michelle and I looked at each other and said, well, we can't find work. It's too cold to live at the cabin. Let's go on a trip, and so that's what we did.
Makes perfect sense, right? I don't have a job. Let's go travel.
Why not? So where did you mentioned your church mission? Where did you serve?
So I served my mission in Taiwan. So I learned Mandarin Chinese. And then in our marriage, I was joking with a friend that I went to high school with. He's like, how many jobs have you had? And I'm like, real jobs, or do we count businesses that I've started up that haven't worked? What do we count here? And at some count, I came up to about 25 different things I've launched and done and been part of. And some of them have been quite successful, and other ones just I call them my base hits, and some are foul balls, and so I'm really happy with where my career went, but I realized that career is only that fraction of my whole who I am and what I do and how I contribute. It was about spending time with the kids and family as well as earning an income and providing for a family.
Yeah, sure.
So so I served a mission in Taiwan, and I felt like at one point in time, the reason why I said that I've done so many different things, I felt like I needed to do an import business, and I imported for about 3 years, made some great money, and then almost lost everything. And it taught us some stuff financially that we then changed to start living by. And then after that, I used my Mandarin Chinese, and then it's been almost 20 years. So since I had a chance to use it very consistently and often, so it's kind of a neat experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's way
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, it's very cool. Yeah, we really enjoy the Asian culture and the Asian people.
Yeah, I love the Japanese culture. I'm very fond of Japanese culture. Although I've never been, I'm still very fond of it. I love learning about it. I probably have, I don't know, 15 books or plus sitting behind me right here, right below me right here about samurai culture and all sorts of good stuff. So that's very cool. I love it. So what was the spark behind this most recent adventure to Southeast Asia? How did that how did that all come about?
Yeah, I'll let you feel that, Michelle.
Well, we've always been believers on setting goals, and you set your mind to something and you just reach for it, and hopefully you aim and hit it, right? Sometimes you don't. But we always said, once our youngest leaves the house, we're going to go. And that was something we talked about, I think, when our oldest started kindergarten. Like, as soon as our kids are all old, we're out of here. And sure enough, Gideon graduated, and we said, we're going to do it. And so we just said, let's do it. And we didn't know how it was going to work, but we just put the ball rolling and saying, we'll figure it out. So we said, well, what's one way we can do it? Let's rent out our house. So we said, well, that will bring in income, and it's cheaper to live in Asia than here. So it will balance out. So that's kind of how it started. And then we started painting our whole house and just getting it ready, realizing we had 21 years of stuff in this house that we had to go through and get rid of a lot of things.
Place for, yeah.
Yeah. So you had the emotions, because it's a big emotional thing, right? Any kind of changes. So we had getting ready to leave for his 2 years off to Germany. And then it was going through everything in the house and then going, oh, we have to plan this trip. Your last trip that you took, Eric, how long did you plan for it before you went?
Not very long. A couple days, an hour.
I like anybody
while I was packing.
That's right. We're like, 4 months, no problem. We'll just plan it while we're there. And so I think we had a couple of our hotels in Taiwan. So we had our first month of hotels, but nothing else was planned for the rest of the time. We kind of had an idea of where we wanted to go, but we couldn't we'll just think about it when we get there, because we're so wrapped up in trying to figure out everything else.
Right. Trying to figure out how to lease the house since we've never done it. Realized, and we had watched some people online that retired to Thailand, or they go slow travel. And I'm like, yeah, that's what we're going to go try. We're going to try this slow travel, and we'll come back and live in our little cozy cabin, in the summers, because that's what we love. We love it up here. It's gorgeous, but we wanted to go travel. And Michelle hit it on the head. We really had Taiwan, the airfare, because I bought it on points, trying to save money. So we had the airfare to Taiwan and 2 Airbnbs booked. And we both are like, okay, but now we got to finish this. And, and it's all that pressure to get so much done right near the end of a move. As you've moved recently, and some of that departure of some of the things that really for what hold value, or they shouldn't, we place value on them. But Michelle mentioned earlier that leasing our house or renting it would bring in some income. We were fortunate enough that after almost losing it all in 2008, we decided we'd always lived below our means. We'd always saved a little bit more than what we had made. But in '08, when that happened, it was a wake up call to us to say, hey, you know what, we want to be completely debt free. We had, and you would have thought we would have learned. Our first home we bought together, I was making $18 an hour, so I was loaded, Eric. This was in '98 when we bought our first home. It was like $18 an hour. That included my commission that could be cut. So it was really like $12 an hour for me, and Michelle made $3 an hour. So between the two of us, somewhere around $20 an hour, we're loaded, right? We're like, this is awesome. So we bought our first house. The next day, like, we signed on our house on a Thursday night. The next day, Friday, going to get my paycheck, and there was not one. They said, hey, you make the most in the company, we're going to lay you off. And I'm like, are you serious? I don't have a job. And so I had that house and I had that mortgage, and we're just young and didn't know what to do. So I just kept finding side projects and finished up my degree, because that motivated me to do that. But in '08, after that big scare, we're like, you know what? We just don't want to owe anybody anything. And so at that point in time is when we really got serious. Every time I had a little bit of extra money, I paid it towards my house. And it could have got us in trouble a couple times, because I was carrying such a low cash ratio that I've got a whole different thinking on finances now. But now there's a little bit of cash, and then we paid a chunk down to keep an emergency fund, a little bit more than that. And then that allowed us all that money that comes in. You would think, my brain goes, oh, that's all revenue. Like, I can spend all that. Well, that's not the case. I still have to pay property taxes. I still had to pay homeowners insurance, so this big chunk of money I thought, would be coming in, which is still nice. And great renters. We were fortunate to get some neat renters in there, and they're doing great. But it just wasn't as much money as we thought it was. But it was enough to go travel. And I'm so glad that we did it. And I'm glad that we took that opportunity by bringing in that money. And so finances for us is a big one. I think there's a fear around money, right? Most people have this fear around money. And so to quash that for us, Michelle's always been the bigger believer in, you've got this. She's always believed in that principle. And there's times that I'm like, yeah, but how? Show me the how. I want to know all the math behind it. And so, like, 8 years ago is, because everybody says you should budget. And I do agree with that. But most of us, just the nuances of, I paid $1 here, $2 here, $5 here. We did that for 5 months on our trip to Asia, so we could tell people, this is how much you can live in Asia for. And Eric, if you're curious, $2,400. You can live in Taiwan for a full month and travel the island. That's eating out every meal. That's staying in Airbnbs that are 1 bedroom. Some of them have a kitchen, some of them don't, so you can live really cheap. Now, we didn't do stuff. We went and watched and saw people, and we didn't really do any amusement parks or any other attractions. And a lot of Taiwan is cheap, as far as being able to see stuff. Yeah. Went to Thailand. We're like, forget it. Let's blow all of our money, because we live so cheap. And even then we didn't spend as compared to others. We didn't spend a lot. Yeah. And I'll share with you how much we spent, but what we started about 8 years ago, instead of a budget, I put together just a net worth sheet. What's my net worth? And then I spent a lot of time and exercise realizing my net worth and my personal worth aren't directly correlated. But in our minds, we put them that way. And so we have a net worth sheet that we go over every month. And we look at where our cash is, how much of it is in like true liquid cash, CDs, certain stock market funds, stuff that we could easily access if we needed to, and literally cash in some of it. And then there's a section that's like, here's my cash, but I can't really get to it very easy. And then here's like all my investments, and that's where my home is, and some of that other stuff that sits, because I can't sell my home in a couple days, and then some of the stuff I don't want to sell, like a motorcycle and some of that, set in this other funds. Whether that's right or wrong doesn't matter, but I'm able to track that number. And we looked at that, and that's what was fun is in Taiwan, we started looking at it going, we loved it. We loved being together, which was very nice. But we realized we weren't ready to slow travel like other people sell that dream. We missed our kids, which is something we'll talk about in a second, one of those principles. But we started missing them. And we said, how much money could we spend and still be comfortable? And I'd let Michelle go first on these numbers, Eric. Why?
Before you get to the
Yeah.
numbers,
Yeah.
let's track a little bit, because
Yeah.
I think you guys have talked about already some things that are really interesting to me. So I think many of us out there, uh, my whole mantra, right, is live the life you've always imagined. So we have this idea, this vision, if you will, of what we want our life to be. But then, how often do we actually live the principles that are going to help us to live that life? Right? Whether it's a life of traveling or whatever it is, right? You
Doesn't matter.
you plug in what it is, and that's what it is. But how many of us are actually willing to live the principles to get there? And I feel like it's really interesting. You mentioned budget, right? Living within a budget, living below your means or within your means. Um, and obviously there's the principle of planning, right? Because there's a lot of planning that goes involved in that. So I think it's interesting that you guys kind of lived it, like you guys decided, hey, this is how we're going to live our life. These are the principles we're going to live by. Now, back then, you probably weren't thinking, hey, we're going to go travel Southeast Asia in 2024 or 2025. That wasn't even probably in the picture, but it's just living those principles. And because you lived a principled life and you held true to those principles as closely as you could, right? You
No,
probably
you're not wrong.
perfectly, like you mentioned. One of us still has a motorcycle that they probably need to sell, but that's okay, right?
But Eric,
But you live them, and that. So when you get to the point where you say, "Hey, you know what? All of our kids are grown. Our house is paid for. Blah blah blah. Hey, what are we gonna do with our? Hey, I know. Let's go travel Southeast Asia. You actually are in position to do it. And you're not sitting there going, well, I'd like to go visit Southeast Asia because that's where I served my LDS church mission, but I can't.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're right, Eric, and I'm glad that you brought it up because and I'll defend my motorcycle. Even my motorcycle's paid cash for, right? So I don't owe anybody anything. That was really like the badge of honor on that was when I didn't really owe anybody. There was no monthly obligation except for the little mortgage I carry on this cabin, and we carried it intentionally because I have the cash to pay it off. But the reason why I chose not to at the time was because my employment was so uncertain. So very calculated. To your point, I lived the principle, but then I looked at it and said, wait a second, what am I risking if I pay cash and pay this off? Well, what happens if all of a sudden something happens? So when we were deciding this, well, Michelle, how hard was it when it's time to get on that airplane? Where was my mindset? Where's my headspace?
Oh, he wanted to back out. Before we even left, when we were doing everything on the house, he's like, this is too hard. Let's just forget it. I'm like, no. We've told too many people that we're going. We can't back out now.
We even have a website, for heaven's sakes.
No, come on.
We can pivot.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I know how difficult it is. I mean, it wasn't that difficult, but just the change. We moved from Spanish Fork, Utah, out here to the middle of nowhere in southeast Texas. And, we went from having a very nice home, very comfortable home, and we came to a house half its size, right? So I remember like what it was like to say, oh, I'm going to take this, and Selena saying, the house is half the size, so we don't really have room for all that stuff. So I don't know what a challenge it was to like downsize to that point, but I don't think I've downsized to this little cabin because I've seen pictures of the outside of the cabin and it's not that big. So what's the square footage of the cabin? And Michelle, I really want to know from you, like leaving your home, and I realize you have a dream, you have this journey you're going on, but what was it like and how difficult or how big of a challenge was it to go from your home to the cabin, even though you weren't there very long because you left on your trip? But hey, guess what? Now you're back to the cabin.
I'm back. It was hard. It was really hard. You have all of your comforts, all the things that you love and that you're used to. And a lot of times it's more of the memories that were there, raising our kids in this home. And I get emotional still. But what kept me going is I knew it was what we were supposed to do now. And I was okay when the movers came to get the pool table. But it's crazy, right? But I was okay with it. And when they came and got the piano, it was okay. So living your life, you got this, all those things doesn't mean it's easy. Most of those things that are worth it are extremely hard. And honestly, we're still in the process of moving. We still have a shed full of boxes, and our cold storage is still full of our stuff. And we have a bedroom there that still has some of our things in it. But you realize how much you don't need. I mean,
we just need each other.
That's right. But when we were traveling, we had a carry-on and a backpack. That was it. We didn't need anything else. We had just a few things, and it was great. I didn't have to worry about all the things. But now that I'm back, it's funny because I'm like, oh, I really want my Bosch. Oh, I really could use this because
a Bosch is how she makes the bread, and it's a blender.
We have a Bosch. So I know what you're saying.
Okay.
Yeah, I hear you.
Because Bosch makes dishwasher, makes a bunch of other stuff.
Sorry, yeah. But I'm like, I got to make bread now. I've got to make the cookies. All those things that were so familiar before we left.
Yeah.
Where when we were gone, we usually ate out because it was cheaper than trying to buy everything to cook at home. So, yes, it was hard, but at the same time, it was encouraging to know that this was the next steps. This is what was next for us. So we could progress in our relationship and to prove to our children that, hey, you got this. Things are hard, but
you can do hard things.
Yeah.
You can do hard things, and you can do it. You can do them well. Wow. While you were talking, and I appreciate the emotion behind it because I felt in a lot of ways the same way. I've been trying to move to Texas for like 10 plus years. But every time I bring it up, my wife would just, Selena would be like, not only no, but hell no, right? And so I was like, okay, you know what? A few years ago, we actually put the house up for sale. This was right before COVID happened. Mm-hmm. So I think it was 2019. We put the house up for sale. Or we were about to list it, actually. And the day before we were to list it, she backed out. Mm. And we kind of had this disagreement, and I just gave in. I was just like, you know what? I will never bring it up again. Like, comes the word. Like, I'm not bringing this up again. And then it's interesting that, our kids move out. So we get through COVID. And then 4 years ago, our grandkids moved to Texas. We only have 2 grandkids. Well, at the time, we had 2 grandkids. And so my son and his family move out here. And we were used to seeing our grandkids every single day, right? Because they lived 7 minutes away. So we saw them every day. And you go from that to not seeing them, but maybe once or twice a year. And we were like, no, that's not going to work for me. We came out here to visit. And on our way home, she said, we're moving to Texas. And I was like, I didn't even say like, okay, let's do this, because I was like, she's gonna back out any minute. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't think it was reality for me until we actually listed the house and had the for sale sign out front. That I was like, oh my gosh, we're moving to Texas. Like, I can't believe it. And it's been hard. We had so many great memories. We were only in our Spanish Fork home for 10 years. But we had so many great memories there. And even moving from Orem, our first home, from Orem to Spanish Fork, which was only like 15 miles, the hardest part about moving, like you said, it was the memories. It's leaving those memories behind. But I came to realize that you're not really leaving them behind. You're taking them with you wherever you go.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's the great part. You can always replace stuff. And like, I think it's interesting that you guys have come to that. Like, it's amazing what we don't need in order to live a great life and just be happy and do all the things that you guys are doing. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty special. We were sitting in Malaysia. So just to give you a recap of where we went to Taiwan, Thailand, and in Thailand, well, actually in Taiwan near the end of that, that's when we decided, hey, we're going to spend a little bit more money and we're going to do everything. So when we got to Thailand, I went scuba diving. We went and did zip lining. We did all this. Went and saw the elephants. You'll get to see Michelle swim with elephants, which was big on her to do. And how did you like that?
I really enjoyed seeing the elephants, touching the elephant, taking a picture with the elephant. Not so much getting in the water with the elephant, because I tried really hard to keep my feet off the ground, because you know what's in that water.
Well, you saw the elephant poop as we got in there too.
Water, Michelle?
Some leftovers.
The mound.
Yes. But it was a memory and it was still fun.
Yeah. So that's when we decided, hey, we're going to, now keep in mind, and just to share with everyone, we didn't go crazy. We still ate Thai food. We still didn't we went to maybe ate pizza twice there in Thailand.
Yeah, so in Taiwan, it's just food.
Right. And that's my point, is we just ate what the locals ate, and we stayed at, reasonably priced places or maybe even on the lower end, but we were comfortable. What was our rules? Safe, clean, and that was it. Do you know what I mean? If they were safe and clean, and it was nice when they had a shower that worked, but sometimes you're standing over your toilet as you showered, and that's fine. We were comfortable. There was maybe 2 rooms that we absolutely would not stay in. We actually left, and that was in Singapore of all places, which was pretty amazing.
I think I remember that episode that you guys.
That post. Yeah. And it was a safety thing. Cleanliness, it was not my favorite, but I could have showered and been okay. But it was the safety issue. And once Michelle safeties it, there's no amount of money. I don't care. Do you know what I mean, Eric? If you would have told me it was $1,000 a night for a hotel room, I would have paid it. I don't care. But we wanted to do all these experiences, so we were doing it on the cheap, and we took buses and trains, and that's part of the experience for us. We love that adventure of it. Yeah. And so I was sitting in Malaysia, and we're about ready to come home. We had another month of travel, and I had a prized buggy. And what it was an old vintage VW bug that I loved. And that was my dream car in high school. And I finally bought it before my kids could drive. And then they all drove it to high school, except my daughter. She rode in it and she couldn't figure out the clutch. So I love Sabrina to death, but she just, after jerking everybody's heads off, she's like, nope. So, but they all got to drive it. They all got, so that to me, just like you're talking about the piano, probably for you, and the pool table, that held a lot of memories for me. And but when it was time, I was like, let's just get rid of it. I could always buy it again. So now I'm sitting in Malaysia. I'm looking on Facebook Marketplace because I'm looking for stuff for the cabin. And what shows up but a buggy that looks identical to mine. Wasn't mine, but it was identical to it. And it was running is probably the big difference. It was in a nicer shape. No, my kids hadn't beat the crap out of the clutch and ruined the transmission. And so that was probably the biggest difference. But I looked at it and told Michelle, I said, we could buy this again. And the kids could have that same experience, and we could have that same enjoyment if that's what we choose to do. Right. So living that life is what I loved what you said, Eric. You take those memories with you and you take them to your next event. But clinging to the past keeps us a lot of times from the life that we really want to live. And that's where I was on going to Asia. I was like, babe, if we just stay here, if we cling on to the comfortable, I don't have to go to Taiwan. I don't have to worry about, we bought international travels insurance, Eric. I'm hitting that age where I could have a major medical issue. You know what I mean? I might need to be flown home. And so we bought all this insurance and stuff. And my brain's just freaking out about what if this, what if that, what if that, all this stuff, all that fear that builds up in our lives. Yeah. Right. And so I had to back off of that. And Michelle's like, we've already committed. We're going. And then it was just awesome. Now, don't get me wrong. There were still times that we'd wake up and go, I'm so done today. I'm done. I'm done. And then we're like, okay, that's great. But we were going hard too, though.
It was good that we had our return tickets already bought.
Yeah.
They were like, well, we know we're here until May.
Well, part of that, we had a friend meeting us. We had an opportunity to bring Gene over, who's our middle son. He was able to come over. He was learning Mandarin Chinese and wanted to see Taiwan. And so we had committed to him before we left that we would fly him over because he was helping us clean up and move out. And yeah, so we'd look at each other and go, crap, if we wouldn't have invited our son, we could have bailed. We probably would have bailed because we realized like within the first 2 months that, yeah, we like to travel and that's still on our list, but we're not ready to leave kids and family because that's one of our core principles is, yes, we raised independent children, right? We raised them. We're hoping for their independence. There's still times that you're like, codependency maybe, but it might be us more than them. But we raised these independent kids. They didn't need us. And when we were over there, we realized they really don't need us.
And one thing else while we were there is they actually relied on each other. And it was so neat to go to talk to him and go, oh yeah, I was just talking to this person or this sibling or this
they're
sibling
helping me with this or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, that it's like, oh, that's nice. They still like each other even when we're not around.
That's when you can pat yourselves on the back and be like, hey, maybe we didn't screw it all up,
That's
maybe
right.
we did okay.
Just a little.
Little glimpses of hope. But no, they're amazing. But we realized that we weren't ready for that lifestyle. But we had to go do it, Eric, because if not, we would still be talking. I'm like, Michelle, wouldn't it be cool when we go travel? Wouldn't it be cool if we could go? Now we've done it, and I'll be honest. As much as I love Texas and Arizona, you guys aren't going to see me come down there for the winters. When I'm done with the winters here, I'm going to Thailand or Taiwan or just because. I'll be honest, man. An airline ticket for $900 or less, and then I'm there, and I'm cheap. I'm for 5 months, almost 5 months, we didn't even break $15,000. Wow. And when I tell my friends that, they say, oh, I don't have enough money. I'm like, if you would settle for a car that's maybe just a little bit older, like I'm driving a 2013 Hyundai Azera with 220,000 miles on it. And guess what, Eric? I don't care that it's held together by zip ties. I don't care.
It gets you from point A to point B is what Selena always says.
That's all a car is to me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? My motorcycle's worth more than my car. I don't care. I love the motorcycle. It's fun for me. But so you as an individual get to define that. I still think I'm going to sell the motorcycle because I'm not finding the love that I used to find in it. And that's okay. I think we as people need to go and say, this is what I want to do. And that's what I love about your book, Eric. And I read it back on your first original release and it really inspiring to say, how am I going to define what I want to do? Then I need to go try and do what I want to do. And is that what I want to keep doing?
Yeah.
And I heard it best. And somebody once said, getting out of debt is like losing weight. If you don't like being out of debt, it's easy to go back into. If you don't like being skinny, it's easy to get fat again. It's
super easy.
Unfortunately, it's too easy. I was on the Asian diet, and I felt really good about it until the other day. We're buying some shirts for a pickleball tournament. Michelle goes, do you really think a large? And I'm like, babe, I don't think I can fit in a medium. And she's like, that's not what I'm saying there.
I was like, the other way.
But Eric, I had no clue she was saying. She's calling me a chubby monkey again.
No. Oh, that's hilarious. I love this experience. I love this adventure you guys have been on. I love the truths that you guys are talking about because I think fear, it's a real thing, right? But so much of it is like what it stands for: false evidence appearing real, right? I mean, we were so excited to come to Texas, and at least you guys could have got a return trip, right? You had your return ticket all booked, and thank you, Gene, for keeping them out there. But we moved to Texas. There's no return ticket. It's like, we're in this. And I remember being here. I think we'd been here a week and a half, and we get our first tornado warning. Not a tornado watch, which is just a tornado watch is something could possibly develop. A tornado warning is hunker down, get in a closet because there is one in your area, right? And I remember our first tornado warning, and I'm driving around, and I'm like, I can't see a freaking thing. If a tornado was like 10 feet that way or something, I wouldn't know because it's pitch black. And how do
That's scary.
tell, you know? And so, yeah, that's fear, right? And hey, we've been through like 3 or 4 tornado warnings now, and it's not that big a deal. Like, we're living life. And I love that you guys continue to live the life, continue to live that dream and that idea that you guys had, that vision that you guys had about this whole trip. I think it's beautiful. Now, I got to ask, and I want to, this question goes for both of you. What was the biggest challenge? Was it the culture? Was it the food? Was it the travel? I know you guys already mentioned, like, hey, you know, staying at kind of a shady place where you didn't feel safe. All right, we talked about that. So let's get real. Michelle, what was the biggest challenge for you?
You know, I'm challenged, probably the language and not being able to understand just about anybody for 4.5 months or to read signs. Google Translate was awesome to have to help. And it was amazing with Roscoe with his Chinese, you know, that got us through 2 months of it. So that was extremely helpful. So I just kind of stepped back. But I think more of the bigger challenge was just missing our children and friends, but mainly our children, and worrying about our parents. Both of our moms ended up in the hospital while we were gone with serious issues. And so that was hard to be away and just hoping that somebody else will take care of it.
Yeah.
Because we weren't there.
Yeah. That's a real challenge. I mean, those are real life stuff that comes up. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. Yeah. Roscoe, what about you?
Yeah, my biggest challenge was being patient with Michelle when she wouldn't figure out where she wanted to eat. No.
He says, what do you want to eat? You're in a foreign country. I could say, I want a cheeseburger. Can you find me one? Probably not.
I could have, Eric. It wouldn't have been very good cheese, but I could have found one.
Mexican food was the hardest one, and he finally did find me chips and salsa, which was amazing.
I thought you were Mexican food in Thailand.
You did.
It was when I was deathly ill, but still. So for me, the challenge was trying to still stay in a routine, you know, to where I still felt like I was doing something that was important and productive. Because I'm like everybody else, I enjoy a good vacation, but a good vacation for 4.5 months, almost 5 months is too much for me. And I don't really feel like we took vacation time while we were over there. Like our last week together when we rented a car and toured the whole island, that was truly a vacation. You know, Michelle and I were just having fun together. We were relaxed. But there was times that it felt like work in the sense that we're still trying to produce content. We're trying to add value. I'm trying to keep a client happy so that I can bring in a little bit of extra income. And so I think the challenge was just finding a routine that I felt comfortable in. And I felt like I was still, I don't want to say producing, but still filling that role of, I'm a provider, you know? And so I think that we have to be real honest with ourselves. If we're thinking that this lifestyle helps you unplug, you know, if that's what I wanted, we could do that, right? We're at a financial position where we could do that. And I'm here to tell everybody it's not as expensive as you would think. With the profits of your home, Eric, if you wanted to go live in Thailand and just live super cheap, and you could rent a place and live there for less than $1,500 a month. You know, which probably would burn out the rest of your equity that you had on your home between now and when you pass.
You're right.
But that wasn't where we're at. I'm here to tell you I can help people get there if that's who they are and if that's where they're at and if that's what they want. We just wanted more. And so for me, the biggest challenge was how did we still stay productive and then to be really patient with each other. I think that was a challenge because I had to remind Michelle. She would say, well, what's this? Or why is this? And I'm like, babe, it's my first time here too. I don't know why that building looks like that. And she would go, that's just the way I'm trying.
I was just trying to start conversation, but he was irritated because he couldn't give me an answer.
And as a guy, I'm like, Dan, she's asked me a valid question. Why is the sky blue? Well, let me go figure it out. You gave me a mission, woman, I provide. You know, but now I'm like,
so I wish I could have been there, just like behind the scenes. If you guys need somebody to record your episodes, let me know.
There was definitely times that was pretty funny and it should have been on camera.
just so I can have fun watching this play out right in front of me.
Our kids love to watch us do it yourself projects, even up here at the cabin, because they hear us talking to each other and they're like, what? Huh? Did Dad really just say that?
It's part of the enjoyment of having you guys install our backsplash. You remember that? I got to know Michelle in a whole different way that I didn't even know was there.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Most people don't realize Michelle is very sweet and very kind. That's what they realize of Michelle. They don't realize that she just has a little bit of, no, Roscoe, I'm not doing that. And I'm like, babe, come on. Every once in a while I get that no, and I'd be like, okay, is this a hard no, or is this like I can talk you into it in a couple hours? And no, defining the difference. So she won't eat seafood, Eric. I don't know if that's surprising to you. No fish.
No fish.
So here we are in Taiwan. We're in a car, and we kind of have this mentality that, this is near the end. We've been traveling together for 4 months straight, just the two of us. And we're driving this car, and she's looking on Google trying to find a restaurant. I thought it was like in the US. You're driving down the street, you get hungry, you pull it up, and it'll bust out 15 different food restaurants. And you pull into Whataburger, pick yourself up a nice big old meal, throw it in the car, start driving again. You're good to go. Not in Taiwan. You're driving through all these little dinky towns. There's no place to park in the big ones. And so Michelle goes, hey, I think there's a restaurant up here. We pull over into this town. We get out and we start talking to this lady. And there's a myriad of silly things that happen. Won't bore you with that. But at the end of the day, the lady goes, all we have is squid. And I'm like, that's not going to work for Michelle. What else is there on your menu? And the lady's like, well, we do have this piece of chicken. And I said, great, that's what she'll take. And she goes, yeah, and I'll give her a side of, and she said this food. And I'm like, I think there's fish in here. She goes, no, there's no fish. And I go, what do you season that with? And she's like, they're these little baby fish. I don't know if you can see my fingers, but, and I go, wait, those are still fish. And she goes, they're not really fish. And I'm like, if you put that on her chicken, she's done. We're done. And I go, she's hungry. She's tired. I said, just hold the fish. And she goes, okay. So she made her that special dish and had an amazing piece of chicken. I had the best squid I ever had, because the lady was just cooking it in her basement, in her living room. And when she ran out, she was out. It was done. And for that amazing squid dinner and a nice piece of chicken and rice, we were out of the door for $8.35 USD. And it was too much food. Oh, and the guy even brought us over a special fruit that grew locally and forgot to tell us how to eat it. And so I ate it wrong, and his wife was chewing him out in the background. And Michelle and I laughed. We're like, oh, we're just like this old couple where she's like, why didn't you tell him? I didn't know. Why didn't you tell him? So every couple, if they're really honest with themselves, have those moments where they're like, this is stupid. Why are we arguing over this in the middle of the street, in the middle of the night, in a foreign country, when we're both just tired and hungry? Let's just go into 7-Eleven, buy a donut, and call it a night.
Tired and hangry, not a good combination. Tired, and hangry. Yeah. So I learned a while ago not to ask my wife where she'd like to go out to eat. I just say, hey, I'm taking you to your favorite restaurant. And she'll reply with, oh, we're going to. And I'm like, yeah, exactly.
I learned that, Eric, but it don't work with Michelle. I'm like, I'm taking you to your favorite restaurant. She goes, oh, really? Where's that?
Yeah.
I'm glad that your wife will do that for you.
That's awesome. All right. Let's see. We talked about greatest challenge. Any huge surprises? Like if you were to say, this surprised me about, I guess overall, looking at the overall experience, what was maybe the biggest surprise that you guys were like, oh, you know what?
A pleasant surprise was how nice everybody was. Overly nice. Everyone's smiling, happy, considerate.
Isn't that interesting?
One time, Roscoe got super sick as we were driving home on a scooter, and it took us like triple the time it should have. And he got turned around and didn't want to add 20 minutes to our drive. So he's riding the opposite direction on the sidewalk and then forgets and turns right into traffic. And this one guy just looks out his window and goes, hey, in Thailand, we drive on the other side of the road. You should be more careful. And I'm like, there's no horn honking, no flipping us off, nothing like that. Just, hey, be more careful.
Be more careful. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
So that was
that is
amazing.
surprising.
With how
I've
nice.
always, in all the travel I've done throughout my career, I've often found that to be the most surprising thing, just how happy people can be and are in different parts of the world,
Yeah.
where maybe we would think because of our economic status or where we're from or what have you, we would think, well, you don't have nearly as much as I have. How can you be that happy? But I've always been very surprised of how happy people are throughout different parts of the world and just how kind people are. So that's always been surprising to me. What about you, Roscoe?
I was for me the big reveal comes when I realized that it's not for me, travel wasn't about seeing, but about being. Meaning I really enjoyed being with the people. I enjoyed going to the night markets and eating food the way they ate food and spend time with the people. If I had my way, I would find travel buddies that live in the country and sit down and have a dinner with them at their house and make friends that way because I don't know how much more I really need to go see. If I need to see something, I can find it on Google. I can find an image of it or a picture of it. And some of these are better than they look in real life. We had that happen more than once where we show up to a place and went, well, that's not like the pictures, you know, but, but really just being with the people and watching the people and interacting with the people. Like Michelle said, we were on a scooter ride and it was raining a different time and we're in Taiwan and we get out and looking for Jade. I didn't even know we were going to stop there, Eric. We just saw these cars parked. We pulled over and they're out there walking in the river. And I'm like, what are we looking for? They're like, Jade. I'm like, cool. We want to find Jade. And, so we're looking in the river and this nice guy comes over to us and says, you guys are getting soaking wet. And I said, yeah. And he's using his English and this is in Taiwan. So I speak the language, but he goes, here, let me give you these and pulls out two ponchos and hands one to Michelle and one to me. And I said, well, how much? He goes, no, they're a gift. And in our minds, we've built up, even in Thailand, everybody goes, watch out for the scams, watch out for the scams. They're there, right? Vietnam, the scams are there. But if you're just paying a little bit of attention, most people are just trying to be nice and friendly. Yeah. So that surprised me. And then the other one that surprised me, and it was a pleasant surprise, is how independent our children are and how they really, we've spent so much time hand holding and helping that they really have this. They've got this, and that's very pleasantly surprised. But it's cool to still get the call and say, Dad, what about this insurance question? Or Dad, and it was really fun on Easter when we just did a family party over Zoom, and that surprised me is how much we missed them, right? I'm like, oh, good, they're finally out of my hair. No, and yeah. and then I'm like, wait, why are they out of my hair? I want to talk to them. I want to spend time with them. And so being able to come home and reconnect and realizing that if we go again, it's not a big deal. We can reconnect. There's so many ways to talk to people now. There's Zoom, there's Google, there's, we didn't lack. Even my parents, when my mom was in the hospital, were able to get on Facebook Messenger and do a chat, so yeah, there are no excuses, in my opinion, to do what you really want to do. You just have to be willing to give up that you're doing it out of comfort that you don't really want. And that's a hard distinction to make. Trust me, I go through it all the time. Because like you said, you moved from, you went down to half a size. I went down to 1/5 of the size of a house that I'm living in, and there's times that I'm like, hey, this sucks. And I'll be honest, I'm really scared about the winter. We might go to Asia again. but
I remember the night that you guys came, or you had just moved out of the house and you drove into the cabin, and it was what? How much snow was out there?
There's 4 feet that I pushed through with my bumper just to get in. And buried the truck so that I could be high enough so I didn't have to dig it out. And fortunate that happened because our snowblower stopped working, and so we wouldn't have been able to dig it out that night anyways. It's
yikes. One of the benefits of not living in Utah, everybody, if you're wondering. You do not pick up a snow shovel. I don't even own a snow shovel. It's been fantastic.
Yeah.
Guys, this has been awesome. I love it. I definitely want to pub. What's the name of the channel? Is it Cozy Nest Adventures? Is that what it was?
Yep. Cozy Nest Adventures with Roscoe and Michelle. So if you even look up Roscoe and Michelle, if you can't remember the whole name, that's where you'll find us.
Yep.
Yeah, it's been great. I love. Every time they come up, and I'm constantly watching them. I laugh a lot. I've laughed quite a bit, and just super happy for you guys. Super happy that I can call you guys my friends, and super happy that you guys had a vision, that you guys have lived a principled life. I think the things that you have taught your kids about living a principled life, if they haven't already paid off, they certainly will in the future. And thank you for coming onto the podcast. Really loved having you guys on. As a departing thought, what's the one message each of you would tell or want to share with maybe a couple out there that's thinking about doing something similar, maybe not exactly the same, but just doing something similar to what you guys have done? What would the one piece of advice be to those people?
Don't let fear get you down. You got this. Just follow that dream, make it happen.
Excellent.
Yeah, and be patient with each other as you go through the different struggles of that give up, because what might mean something to you doesn't mean much to the other. And it doesn't matter that it's a shared experience of 30 years and seeing something the same way or different, but just be patient. Neither one of you have been in that position. So even if it's watching your last child leave and one is like, all right, cool, this is awesome, and the other one's crying, realize where they're coming from, and just be patient as we're going through these changes and transitions, and then to remember, you got this.
Yeah. Excellent. Awesome. Guys, thank you so much. It was awesome. If I can't see you in person, at least I got to see your beautiful faces now on YouTube. So this was great. This is the 21st episode of the Live the Life podcast. There's many more to come with some amazing guests. And hey, maybe after the next journey, we'll have you guys back on here so you can tell us. I'd love to get into travel tips, hacks that you guys have, because I've learned quite a few in my travels. So I'd love to see what you guys have learned and what hacks you guys have as you continue your travels. So thank you so much. And as always, remember, live the life.